Hey there guys. So for this week's video I thought it'd be quite a fitting subject to cover the matter of how not to let your eating disorder slip while you're doing things like exams. And all of you know really that I've been working really hard for the USMLE exam to get my license in the US. And I've been working for that for maybe 9 months. And I have to tell you, it was the most stressful time I've ever had with an exam. But my weight didn't change and I'm still okay. So why is that? Well, there are many reasons really. And the first most important thing is you got to realize why you're doing what you're doing. The reason why I'm doing this exam is because I know that I want to become a doctor at the end of the day. I want to become a doctor in the US. There are some other people who I've met in inpatient units where they say that they want to study art so that they can go into a profession on that side. There are people who wanted to study physics so that they could move to CERN and play around with a Large Hadron Collider. There are so many motivations and dreams that you have, and you've just got to realise that that's where you want to be. And if you let your eating disorder slip, you won't be able to get there because there's going to be so many hiccups along the way, whether it be that you're not going to have enough energy to go to the library, you're just not going to have enough energy to get through the day to be able to do the practical things, or perhaps if it gets to that stage, you might become so ill that you have to become hospitalized again and you've lost more time. And I'm not saying that this will happen to you, but I've seen it happen. When I went, I'm the obvious case here because I did relapse back in 2013. And before I go on, it wasn't related to work, as I've told you in previous videos. It was related to the issues that were going on in the family at that time. But when I was in that inpatient unit, there were so many people there who were in the process of going through university and have had to take a year out because they just don't, they're just not fit for study really. I guess if that's not proof enough that if you let your eating disorder slip, that's where you could be. I don't really know what else is, but that's my own experience on it, and that's the main reason why I've decided to really try and keep focused on the end goal, really, where I want to be, and knowing that the eating disorder can't be a part of that. The next piece of advice I have is you've got to really start slow and build up to the really hard work. When I first started for the USMLE, I was doing maybe 3-4 hours a day at the very most to just really kick off the things that I wanted to do, because I knew that most of this stuff I was only seeing for the first time ever. If I was to go into the library for 12 hours a day and just continually try and memorize brand new things, I think I would have gone mad. You need to do things in small chunks really at the very beginning until you've got the confidence to be able to say, I can spend a bit more time on this now because a bit more of it's sticking. Or you can spend a bit more time on it because you feel a bit more comfortable knowing that you're just confident with it. And so, yeah, between May and June, I was doing 3-4 hours, 4-5 hours, and that just slowly began to build and build until around December, where I was really putting in the hours, maybe 8-9 hours a day, to try and just really get ready for this exam and basically try and recapitulate the 8-hour exam that I was going to do. It was, quite a useful thing for me in the end. The next piece of advice I have is if you are beginning to realise that things are really getting the better of you, you've got to go and speak to someone. You can never ever underestimate the power of being able to talk to someone, because when you've got an eating disorder and you're stressed, you tend to really isolate yourself from everyone else, and that can be really, really unhealthy. Now, I'm not just saying this because I'm just trying to fill in the space. It really is unhealthy to isolate yourself from everyone else, because if you're on your own and you've got these thoughts going through your mind and you've got no one to vent it off of, to try and really hone in on the fact that these thoughts are irrational, you begin to just really follow what's going on in your mind, and it just starts this vicious cycle where your eating disorder can go downhill, but also you become depressed, and that can then affect the eating disorder even more. So if you just have no one to talk to, you're really not doing yourself any good. So please, just take a moment to go and try and speak to someone, anyone who you can confide in, and just let them know what's going on. And I mean, if they are a good friend or a good family member, they'll be happy to help you because they don't want to see you ill. They want to see you succeed as much as you do. And that's just so important, really. The next piece of advice is really related to the actual eating itself. If you don't really 100% trust yourself that you are going to eat properly or at the right times or the right amount, then I really do advise you to have a meal plan in place if you haven't already, and really follow it to the letter. You don't want to have any exceptions in your meal plan. You know, if you have one day where you say, it's just an exception and I'll just carry on working, miss this meal and it'll be fine. What will happen the next day? Well, you'll get to around that time again, you'll think to yourself, well, 1 minute, yesterday I was able to just completely skip this meal. Why can't I do the same thing again? And that's really where problems start, because you're just making exceptions and then you just follow it through to the next day, and then maybe a bit later on you might say, well, I guess if I don't have to eat this meal, then I don't really need to have this snack, and then you just really start to lose control over the thing that you used to have control in. So you just really have to follow the meal plan to the letter and make no exceptions whatsoever. And if you feel that you can't trust yourself to do that, or again you feel that you're slipping, talk to someone. It can really help, trust me. The next piece of advice I have is, if you are beginning to feel that you're becoming overworked, then you just have to take a step back and relax, because your health matters more than that exam. I know that the exam is where, it's going to get you to where you want to be, but you won't get there if you're not doing things healthily. So really, take a step back, know your limits. Way back in first year, I'd come from GCSEs and A levels that I found horrendously easy. I don't want to sound pretentious, but they were just really easy for me. And I thought, university's going to be fine. And I got to university and it was just such a shock. It was such a wake-up call that, the A levels really underprepared me for, really. And I really did become overworked. And I was becoming exhausted. At one point in exam time, I just had to just stop what I was doing in the library, and I just left. And I just basically reevaluated where I was. And I thought, you know what? I'm doing okay. I don't need to do this much work. I don't need to do 12 hours when I know that I only need to do 7 hours. So by reevaluating your situation, you can really just stop the vicious cycle of becoming overworked, because it can get really out of hand very quickly without you even noticing things going pear-shaped. And I guess that brings me on to my last piece of advice, and it really doesn't really follow what everyone else does, and it's that I never have a timetable of things that I need to do on particular days. In fact, 1 minute. Thanks to the world of video editing, I've just managed to make that 3-minute thing about 2 seconds for you guys. But yeah, so this was essentially my study plan for the USMLE. And as you can see, it's just a bunch of things that I knew that I needed to do until the exam. And there weren't any dates, there wasn't anything, it was just things that I knew that I needed to get done. And so if, say, one day I didn't want to do oncology, then I'd have that freedom because I didn't have a pre-made plan out, all laid out for me. And so it was just so much more flexible. And I've seen other people who have these rigid plans, and you can see that they won't leave the library until they've done all that work, and they'll leave, but they might become exhausted, but also they might not be working efficiently, because they're just working to reach that end goal, and so they might just miss things just to get to that end goal. So I mean, by me doing what I was doing, I could do things at my own pace, really, and I just didn't. I didn't feel stressed at all throughout the 9 months. I may have sounded like I was working really hard, which I was, but at no point did I really think I can't do this, or at no point did I think this is going to kill me. I understood that it was a hard process. I wasn't naive to that from the start, and I just didn't really let things get the better of me, because I knew that I could do it at the end of the day if I put the hours in. So yeah, I mean, that's the advice that I have for you guys, and it's what I've been following, really. and it's worked for me so far. Let's hope that I pass the first step, and then maybe these bits of advice will have a bit more validity to them. But if you've got any other questions about this, please do let me know. And if you are beginning to feel stressed and you feel that you've got no one to talk to, please feel free to send me messages, send me a letter to the address in the description box below. I'm happy to offer you advice where I can. I'm really happy to do so. So yeah, I look forward to seeing you guys next week, but for now, thanks for watching.